I once told my wife that I no longer wanted to be married. Just 2 months shy of our 8th-year anniversary. We separated. I moved out of the house, leaving my 8-year-old daughter behind, who I would only see on the weekends because I lived in my gym on a queen size air mattress, walking over dumbbells and dodging medicine balls. But during that 2 months, I did some self-discovery. And what I discovered is that there was a flaw in how I believed. You see, we all share the same belief system where we're allowed to blame others for how we're made to feel. Let me share this with you. During my self-discovery, I found out that my triggers, my childhood wounds, had absolutely nothing to do with my wife. You see, I blamed her for not showing me the respect that I felt I deserved. But the funny thing is, I was never taught that I deserve respect. You see, my mother, the way she disciplined us was she would talk at us, use profanity, raise her voice. But when she would talk to teachers or police officers, she would use a whole different type of voice. So that translated to me that those people are respected. They get taught, they get a different version of you. But I got a whole different version. So that translated that I'm not as worthy or I'm not as respected as those other people. So we got to be mindful how we talk to our kids, because that childhood trauma lives in us and it comes out and damages relationships and marriages. So during that self-discovery, I had to hold myself accountable. How can I blame my wife or anyone else for not showing me respect when I was never taught that I deserve respect? So I challenged myself. I challenged that belief, and I challenged myself to go back to the source, my mother. Yeah, I had to have a real uncomfortable, awkward conversation with my mother because I needed it to make sense. I'm trying to save my family. I'm trying to save me, my life, because I can't keep living with these triggers. Anytime someone raises their voice or have an emotional reaction, I'm triggered by their reactions. And so we must be mindful of how we show up in our relationships. If we haven't done our work, if you haven't done your own self-work, then how can you expect someone to give you something that you've never been taught? So I want to share with you what I discovered and how I was able to reconcile after 2 months of being separated, and we still was able to celebrate our 8th-year anniversary. So when I celebrated my wife, it was one of those moments of gratitude, because when you start to grow emotionally, you find things to be grateful for. You see, we meet our mates for a reason, because they challenge us, they trigger us the most, right? And that's an opportunity to learn those emotions and grow from those emotions. So now, if I'm triggered, I become a student of those emotions. Number one, I identify what the emotion is. What is it? Name it, acknowledge it. Is it disrespect? Is it anger? Is it sadness? Then I ask myself, why? Why do you feel this? What is this emotion? Where does it come from? Oftentimes we find ourselves back in our childhood, identifying that those emotions started there. And now we are blaming and holding other people accountable for those emotions. And then the last thing I do is to ask myself the question, how can I articulate these emotions in a way where I'm still able to be connected? That's the vulnerability that oftentimes we fail to exercise, that vulnerability. Let's face it, for any relationship to be healthy, to be successful, it takes a great deal of vulnerability. Understanding your triggers and understanding that your partner also have triggers. And to be mindful not to let your emotions overpower your logic. Let me say that again. Let's be mindful not to allow our emotions to overpower our logic. So being very mindful of using your logic to ask questions, become a student, and not to give away your power. Because here's a tip that I learned, that it's hard to be emotional and logical at the same time. So if we're able to be logical in those triggered moments, this would allow us to regain our emotional power, because we're using logic. We're gaining knowledge, and knowledge is what? Knowledge is power. It feels good to learn stuff, right? Think of a baby. A baby first started walking, they're smiling, they're learning how to walk. It feels good. It feels good to learn anything. So in those trigger moments, take ownership of your emotions. Begin to use logic. Understand, question, become a student of your emotions. And it's also an opportunity to learn your partner's triggers and emotion by asking them questions. What is it that they feel? Why do you feel this way? How can we compromise and work past this issue? By working together, being vulnerable. It takes a great deal of strength and control, but you can do it. You can do it. But if you need help, I'm offering a free virtual body and belief boot camp where we work out, we work those physical muscles, and then we dive into those emotional muscles, those belief systems that's causing you to disconnect. Some of us on a daily basis, disconnecting meaning giving away your emotional power, which leaves you in a dark space, not able to connect with others because you're in a dark space. We all want to be in the light. But if you are succumbing to those emotional triggers, you're allowing yourself to stay in the dark. So during my free virtual body and belief boot camp, we're going to talk about those emotions. And we're going to help you shed some light on those emotions. There'll be a link in the comment. Hit the link, sign up, and it's free every Saturday morning. No equipment, no excuses. I'm the Power Coach Martez. Do yourself a favor today. Treat yourself to a smile. I'm out.